let's make this bent over tree using Unreal Engine's new Procedural Vegetation Editor. Assets made of this editor use the new nanite foliage skeletal mesh pipeline. One of the advantages with this pipeline is it can voxelize foliage at distance, so it maintains its volume while being very performant. If I increase the scale of the voxelization, you can see it here in Editor. As we get closer, the voxels get smaller, and as we get further away, they get bigger and bigger. But it maintains its general volume and shape. If I reset that back, you can see it actually makes voxels so small that you can't really see them because they are at the per pixel level. This means we get very performant trees at distance, and they maintain their volume and lighting integrity. So let's get started. First, we need to go to the plugins, search for vegetation, and make sure the vegetation editor is enabled. And then we need to go to the project settings, search for nanite foliage, make sure nanite foliage is enabled. Then we can go to Fab. If we search for mega plants, we'll get the results from the new Quixel Mega Plants library. You can see there's only a few trees here currently, but it is growing fast. We just want to look at the European beech for now, and we want to add that to project. When that's added to project, you will get a folder like this, and here you can see the instances, which is all the skeletal meshes, all the meshes that we'll be building our trees from. I think basically it uses these first three for what we'll be doing, but these are all the assets it includes. Simple materials, textures, but in here is where the magic is. We've got 4 presets here set up by Quixel, which in general is all you really need for a forest. You don't need that many variations. You've got 2 full-size trees and 2 smaller trees. But if you want to do something a bit more special, you can open up the new Procedural Vegetation Editor. And here you can see the 4 presets, which Quixel have already set up, and their outputs here. But for now, we just want to focus on this top one. So if we plug output A into this is the default tree that we're going to edit. If we press Ctrl L, we will lock the previewing on this node here. But we just want to look at this first one. So we're going to copy and paste that, plug in the output from A into it. We can see this is the final result, distributing the foliage palette, which is, as I said, those 3 twigs, the mesh builder, which builds our trunk, and then we have editors. So here we have slope, the first one. We're just going to delete that and we're going to start again. So we're going to come into here. These are our nodes we can use. We're just going to use the slope one exactly as they had. Plug it in here. You can see the default is already more bent over than they had. If we can tweak that up, and it starts to bend even more. But we want to see what the final tree looks like. So we go over here on the final node and we can press Ctrl L, and that locks the previewing on the last node. So now we can modify this node but still preview the final result. So we want it to be fairly bent over, but that might be a little bit too much. Let's try something like 75. And this is already getting pretty close to what we want actually. But if we search here, there is a gravity node as well that we can just put in here. And if we turn up the gravity, you can see the tree starts to bend according to the weight of the leaves. Getting a little bit too much bent here, so what I might do is just add in another node called the carve node, which can carve out some of the branches for us. Length from root is what we're going to use. And if we watch here, it just slowly starts cutting off some of the branches from the root. So we want something about like that. So we get a little bit of bend, but not fully bent over. I think I want a little bit more bend back up from the sunlight. So if we do the bend strength here on our slope node, we can change that to maybe 3. And so we get a fallen over tree, which is bent, grown back upwards towards the sunlight, and then the weight of gravity is bending the end over a little bit. So I think something like that's looking pretty good for now. This is just going to be a quick, simple tutorial. So then we can come over to the output node. Everything should just be on defaults, but we can see it's creating nowite foliage and it's using voxelize as its shape preservation method. So with that node selected, we can click export, output selected nodes. Actually, let's cancel that. We want to change the name here. Instead of A, we want to call that Beach 01 Bent. And then we can click on export, export selected nodes. Great, and that's done. And now we can see our new skeletal mesh and our skeleton for our new bent tree have been saved right here. We can drag and drop that into our scene. However, you'll notice that it's completely static. There's no wind on it. That's because the wind system needs to use an instance. So we can come and we can just make a quick blueprint actor, BP underscore bent tree, add a instance skinned mesh. We can add in our new bent tree, compile, transform. We want to add in the wind, and then if we come down to instances, add 1 instance, compile and save, and that's all ready to go. And then with that blueprint, we can just drag and drop it into our level, and you can see the wind is all working. If we just place this where we want it, somewhere like that, and we can see the trees all working as we expect. If we come back here and we turn on the voxel exaggeration, we can see that that's all working perfectly, and it's all voxelizing as we would expect. Great. And that's it. We have a new tree. So, thanks for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe for more. And here's a sneak peek at our next, more advanced tree.